Plot twist, I don't either.
USPSA 1061.
No editing on Easter Sunday. Welcome to the PARAcast. We've been gone for 2
down,
weeks.
Tony Cowden.
Can I start the show, Jared? You all right?
No.
Red team versus blue team.
Anyways, Tomas the Boss Fernandez joining me tonight. He thinks just because you AD that you need to be DQ'd. It's Steve Koski.
Hey, I did think about it for about a second, didn't I, Robert?
Yeah, I was seriously wondering if that was going to happen.
We need to bring this up, but I just want to point out the note that the sport has gone so Instagram wild with the running around that clear, blatant things make you go like, I don't know if I should. No, I should DQ this guy. Anyways, and the winner of Cannibal Camp Season 3, Robert Wyatt.
Hey, it all tastes like chicken if you put barbecue sauce on it.
What do they call that? What do the cannibals call that?
The Donner Party.
No, pig. There was something like something pig, white pig or something like that.
Pig.
It was something weird. It's apparently humans taste like pig. They in the trucker community, they call him the port of entry. It's Jared Stepp.
Oh, all right.
At least he's got a name.
Wow.
And I had to come up with this one real quick because I didn't know he was joining us today. He passed the company's drug test only because he gets high on embezzlement. It's Yee-Min Lin.
You can absolutely tell that I have all kinds of money in those free federal primers.
Yeah, getting paid off. So anyway, 2 weeks.
Oh, besides, if anybody was going to say that there was something happening, it would come from Leighton anyway. Just throwing that out there. Thanks, Derek.
Let's talk about. I'll start later. Let's talk about the DQ thing since we brought it up. Steve, let's.
Okay, it's a stage where you start on the left side and you shoot a few rounds, and then you reload while you're moving back behind a wall segment.
I like how. Hold on, everyone. We hear a scream. Everyone's got their headphones on, and 3 people look back to see if it came from their house.
It was definitely my house.
Okay, I heard it. I was like,
at least we only looked, and we didn't. Everybody didn't get up with their guns that they were playing with and going, what?
All right, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
The shooter drops the gun out of, dismounts the gun, brings it down a foot or foot and a half, and is turning to run. And as they bring it down, pow, gun goes off. I mean, it's clearly during the reload. And as I'm a little slow sometimes, so it takes me kind of a second to process things. So I waited about a second and a half, then I hollered stop. And he totally understood like I wasn't shooting. I definitely had the gun off target. I was reloading. The round, it definitely looked like it went into the berm. He didn't have it. It didn't.
I actually
you saw it whack the berm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that was good, but it did take me a half second to say, or a second and a half to say stop. Because sometimes I'm like, did I just see that? And I've had that. I wish I had like faster reflexes because I've had that. A month ago, we had a squad full of new shooters, and we had a stage where you had to basically run down the 180, and we had a shooter, going 10 degrees past the 180, and I'm like, did he just do that? Stop.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing too. I don't fault you for taking the extra second because I've literally had the thing where like it's the same thing with the 180 or anything else. You like see it and you're just like,
did I just see what I think I saw?
I was like,
yeah.
It's like literally if you see like no one understands that they're looking at a streaker in the first second. They're like,
is that his what? Oh,
he's naked.
But was it 4 inches? Was it 4 inches?
That's his balls.
Is that part of his belt?
Jared says that with such deadpan, a man who has clearly seen another man running down the street naked.
He's a cop.
There's a tweaker.
Well, people run down the street naked in Utah. I thought everybody was,
Motel
nice
6, man.
Oh yeah, you go near the Sportsman's warehouse in Midvale, and I guarantee you're going to see some janky ass people.
That's exactly where it was. I was just running down the street, and then I started turning around, and the guy I was with, he's like, "Why are we turning around? I thought we were going to Dutch." I'm like, "Dude, that guy's balls are out." And he goes, "What?" And he looks up from his computer, and it was this man who was in a denim miniskirt only, and they were hiked up where it looked like a freaking horse. All you could see was just balls hanging down, and he was helicoptering. And I'm just like, God damn it.
That's the Australian cleavage you don't want to see.
You gotta go lay hands on the guy, bring him to justice.
No,
It was great.
That's why we have a taser.
We just yelled at him.
Wait, was that as good as the review that you wrote, Robert? That one time that you and Koski stayed at that very special hotel in St. George?
Oh,
That was all
ladies who were
four of
working
us,
so hard all
actually.
night.
Yeah,
you were there too.
Me and Jared were in the other room besides. Yeah, and ours. I don't think our bathroom was as filthy as theirs, but like it was the bed did not feel clean, and the floor literally felt like let's just take a little rug and put it directly over the concrete.
Listen,
Dude, you walked in bare feet and your feet were black on the bottom.
it was
all I'm saying is I've only gone to one out of area shooting thing with these guys, and that was the last time. These guys picked the hotel, and I'm like, all right, we're not doing that again.
Well, that was the day when we looked at it and it's like, how cheap can we stay at a place? And that's when we learned the very valuable lesson. Maybe cheap isn't the exact way to go.
That's not the
Not with
only
hotels.
consideration.
Yeah. All right. So DQ. So
the interesting thing about that was you're putting the DQ in the iPad, and you can actually select two reasons because they were, of course, Dan Ward and Blake Corus were arguing was this an AD during reloading or was it an AD while moving? Well, it was both, and Dan's like, well, I think you can select both, and you can, so it actually accepts the DQ for two reasons.
That's why you just simplify it and say their trigger or their finger was in the trigger guard.
And that's what I was going to put that as just trigger, a finger, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, how do you know their finger was in the trigger guard? Because the gun went boom.
Because the gun went bang. But
well, I mean,
anyway.
you asked me that question, Robert, and
yes, sir.
so the example actually brought up. Remember that arbitration that you were at, Tom?
yes.
Yeah. So that was a very similar instance where it was was this guy aiding while moving because he had the PCC pointed at a target and was very clearly moving in another direction. And then, whatever the details were for that arbitration, finger in the trigger is a judgment call. It's like a 180. There's not a whole lot of argument about that. ADs actually have a little bit more flexibility, believe it or not. And maybe not flexibility, but there's more room for questioning.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't an AD. I meant to fire that shot into the berm.
Blindly into another spot that I wasn't looking at, and I wasn't set up to shoot it at all. But if it comes within.
Right.
It's like if it comes within whatever
10 feet.
10 feet of whatever, like pick the target you think it kind of shot closest to, and then he goes, I was going for that one. So yeah.
Dumb question. Round over the berm. That's a DQ in USPSA.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So what you do is you basically build up a really big berm, and then there's absolutely no way that you
The
can get
subs
DQ
way.
for runs of the berm. The subs way. Yes. Yeah.
Unless your name happens to rhyme with Benchy Trang. I mean, and then you just 45 it out of the entire range.
My boy.
Let's remember, Robert.
I got
But
a quick question for
You have also fired 145 degrees over the berm.
I have.
So
and
I know-
coincidentally enough, I also may or may not have AD'd yesterday.
No way.
Sir,
Oh,
that
yes.
was not an
That's a
80,
good
that
story.
was
Tell him.
skill.
Okay, let's talk.
Oh, I mean, yes, pure skill.
Oh yeah, it was a flash of skill.
So it's an unloaded start. Robert stands up, loads the gun, and
I start pressing that gun out, and I'm used to the double action of a CZ, so that finger goes right to the trigger. And believe it or not, that 1.5 pound trigger, it goes off real easy. And so as I'm pressing out, the gun goes off, and it hits the steel. I'm actually not aiming at, but coincidentally, I have such a damn good index that it hits it anyway.
Yeah, I always like the sudden flash of skill. The person that surprises the most is the person behind the gun.
And you can see it in the video, like, oh, keep going.
No, you did good with it. You shot and you hit and you moved to the next target. I will say that one thing on Steve's DQ is pretty great because I'm in the bay next to them, and I can just hear stop coming from across the range, and I'm like, oh, somebody's having a bad day.
So
And I knew in my heart it was Steve yelling.
we had another interesting, very loud stop call. Leo was the RO, and Matt Waukee had a squib on his very last round, and Leo caught it, and there's like pop, and they go stop, and it's like everyone turns around.
Maybe
I
everyone
remember
turns around.
that.
maybe that was what I heard, because I just heard someone screaming, "Stop!"
That was it. Because when Steve did it, it was very like low key. He kind of, because you could see like not confusion on Steve's face, but it was that kind of like,
Disappointment.
did I see what I think I saw? And then the guy gets into the next position, and Steve's like, stop.
Oh, so it was a police gentle stop, like the way we handle things in California.
Well,
Yeah.
the man is armed.
But no,
the way Jared yells stop, he goes stop, 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 bang, bang, bang.
I'm taking my gun out.
Wait, I'm not ready for the gunfight. Yeah, stop, and we're going. So I do not know the gun. I was not there. I do not know the shooter. I would guess a lightly tuned 2011 Shadow 2. Yeah.
And it's not lightly tuned. It's heavier than mine in terms of like the trigger, which it's a pretty low bar to get over.
I'm guessing the gun's weight could set off its own trigger.
Well, that goes without
I
saying.
don't know why
mean,
that matters, Tom. You have such a big thing about the gun's weight
Yeah,
versus the
if
trigger.
Steve
point.
says the gun
Big,
is down
Tom's
here,
Tom's trying to
trigger is the trigger.
justify all of his plastic fantastics.
I'm not trying to justify
okay.
all the plastic fantastics. My only thing is like have whatever. I do not want a trigger weight in USPSA. I am just very concerned that the level of skill. It used to be like it would take kind of a while, like you'd have to like 2011 yourself into a 1 pound trigger or something else like that. But that the level of skill of the USPSA shooters, or the need for speed and the ease of getting a sub 3 pound trigger, has not coincided with the level of safety skill that's gone up. So the shooting skill in USPSA has rapidly gone up, yet the safety skill in USPSA seems to be going down.
Have you guys been seeing an increase in DQs for like actual safety stuff? Whether it's ADs, so on and so forth.
How many rounds have we accidentally had discharge or go over the berm this year at Slipsaw? A high number.
Nice try.
Actually,
I'm not answering that question. None.
None. Actually, I know that number, and it's not that many.
I don't think
do you guys
the
track
safety's
that
any
stuff?
worse. I don't think the safety's any worse. The new shooters still get DQ'd at a higher proportion. Experienced shooters still get DQ'd now and then. It doesn't seem to me to be worse.
The one thing I will say is that I have seen a number, and I can think of 3, actually 4 instances just right off the top of my head in the past 2 years of shooters who are buying fancy ass guns with sub 2 pound triggers, whether they're
first match.
Atlas or Infinity or whatever. They're showing up with these full tits out 2011s,
100%,
and they are going faster than they can process, and they AD the shit out of the ground. And I've seen that a number of times, but I think that's part of just 2011s now are becoming very much in vogue in the tactical Timmy world, and they've always been in vogue in the USPSA world. And now that we have a lot more access to these very high-end 2011s, and like these guys are pushing these Atlases are so cool, and this gun's so cool, and this gun's so cool. I've seen a bunch of people show up at the club, and I'm like, I've never even seen you before. What's your name? He's like, oh, this is my first match. I'm like, motherfucker, you got an Atlas Chaos Gen 2. Those cost like 8, 9, 10 grand. And he's like, yeah, it's cool. I'm like, are you loading that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh God, that's ballsy to do it for the first time.
Yep.
So
wait,
Robert, I
we've seen
thought
a lot
you told
of
me
those.
I thought you told me Mormons only like to spend money on houses and what was the other thing?
I can't guarantee. I can't get houses and cars. That's where
Houses
the
and
majority
cars.
of money goes.
Wait, are you guys starting to spend money on guns?
That's why Steve's not Mormon. It's because he wasn't going to spend money on either unless he got a really good deal.
Steve doesn't like to spend money either. There's no coupons for 2011s.
No, because I've the level of unsafe gun handling I've seen at the matches that I've attended in the past couple of years has definitely been a little bit higher. Even in classes, I'm seeing people sweep themselves on very simple draws. I'm seeing people trying to push speed and literally things that I would not worry about, like with people if they had something like a SIG or a Glock, like drawing as fast as they can and then getting the muzzle caught in their sweater pocket and then sweeping their stomach with a CZ Shadow 2 with a 2-pound trigger with the safety off in single action. I am seeing a lot of this stuff. People are understanding that they need to shoot very, very quick times to have good scores in USPSA, and I'm not seeing the safety aspect go along with them.
Wait,
Yeah,
how in the world
so,
are they
okay,
sweeping
hang
their
on.
stomach?
I actually have
Gun
one.
comes
I
up,
had that happen
catches
yesterday.
catches in a pocket, in the sweater pocket, and literally does this because the front sight catches inside the sweater pocket as they come across.
Sweet. So they're like committing harakiri with their.
Correct. They bring it up, it catches inside the pocket of their hoodie, and then they sweep across with a 1-pound or 2-pound trigger with the safety off.
Or they
Do you guys
pocket
cover
sand
that?
the gun.
Oh, right. Do you guys cover that in the safety class? Because I know when we do our
Yes.
intro. Okay, yeah, because we do the same thing, but it's dry, so we just let them. We let the competitors, the new guys, kind of figure it out, and then they go, "Oh, right, yeah, if I don't have my stuff tucked in,
Yeah.
and that's generally a recipe for disaster."
Of our DQs from was it August of last year to the end of March, we had 18 DQs. 9 of those were for breaking the 180. Only 3 of those were for torching a round off. Some others, the others were for sweeping, unsafe gun handling, unsupervised gun handling. That's probably in a safety area.
Well,
Not
not in
a
a
loaded
safety,
gun
not in a
during the
safety
course
area.
of fire. Or sorry, excuse me. But yeah, so the 180 is still.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Is still far and above the majority of what people are getting DQ'd for. The ADs, actually, just for fun here, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Of the 3 ADs, if you were to guess, of the 3 ADs, and I know you know some of these guys anyway, but of the 3, what do you think the experience level of the 3 ADs, what is the experience level of the shooter?
Probably 5 years or more.
They're all veterans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
The ones I'm thinking of are all new.
The ones that we had in our in our list that we put together,
well,
they were all well-seasoned shooters.
Well, the one
Not
thing,
military veterans, but
No, like veteran shooters. They've
Okay,
been
gotcha.
shooting for a long time. Some of these people for a very, very long time.
the one thing that I would like, ADs downrange past the 180, they're kind of scary, but they're not as scary as 180 breaks or people sweeping themselves. Because that's when it can happen. I mean, Dave Blanton put up a video about a guy who shot himself in the foot with a 2011 3 weeks ago. So I
consider an 80 a bigger issue. I consider the 180s less of an issue, because whenever you have retrograde movements, by the time the person breaks the 180 and we stop them, they're still usually well ahead of where the majority of the shooters are.
It's the loss of control.
Yeah.
180 breaks that are the freaky, nasty stuff, and the reason why
when they turn around on us, like
when they turn around, they lose kind of control of the gun. They fall. The gun breaks the 180, and mainly, like, why are they scary? Because there are things of much higher value on that side of the 180.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
A quick question, Yee-Min, does USPSA have a write-up, or when there was that fatality a year ago or so? I Googled some stuff and I got like Caleb Giddings articles, but I never really. Does USPSA have anything on
You're
that?
talking about you're talking about the guy up in New York, right?
Yeah.
That was. I know there was some stuff that was brought up. I mean, that was during Foley's time. As far as actual documentation, that's probably something I'd have to ask about.
A safety review or review from USPSA. Of the accident.
I'd be interested to see like what USPSA found, because all I see is just
Hearsay.
Yeah.
That's I'll have to take a look into that, but we can talk a little bit more about that once the recording is over.
Cool.
So, anyways, things that I did a couple of weeks ago. I took a counter robbery class with Cecil Birch.
Counter robbery?
Counter robbery?
Counter robbery. So basically, it was 3 different
How
instructors.
to?
How to? Yes, how to counter.
Speaking of robbery, Jared has the UPOA match coming up. So if anybody in
Yeah.
Utah wants to knock off a few stores, all the cops will be at.
At this time, at this place. But you better do it far away because they're all armed and got
Yes,
some practicing.
Do not do it near Big Salty.
Yeah, it was just a, it was
do
a,
it at Big Salty.
it was a class on like
Yes.
managing unknown contacts, how to deal with people, proactive and reactive ways of gun handling, and like one of the things that was brought up was pepper spray. It was a very interesting thing, and it convinced me to carry like a little $12 thing of palm pepper spray on me. It was a kind of a very cool experience. Chuck Haggard, Daryl Bulkey, and Cecil Birch, and it was pretty fun to sit there and go through. And it's nice to have a class that has something to do with handguns. That's more on the defensive end instead of the shooting end. And so I had a really good time with that. But at the meantime, I sold my Shadow Systems and just bought a Glock 19 MOS. Mainly because I have these pulled 115 grain bullets, and I have more of those in monetary value than I did have in the Shadow Systems, and the Shadow Systems wouldn't group it for hell. So anyways, 19 Gen 5 MOS great, and I decided to get one of these Steiner MPSs, and it's one of the enclosed emitter optics, and it is ugly as sin. It's kind of big, but the glass and the dot and the shooting experience with it is absolutely fantastic. So it is one of the best emitters and one of the clearest pieces of glass I've ever sat there and seen on a handgun. And it is pretty tough, durable. It's got really good adjustments. Battery cap is on top, O-ring sealed, seals up pretty nice, and I'm very happy. I shot one of my fastest 50 round T-Rex arms drills yesterday with it, just right out of the box as soon as I got it zeroed. So I'm trying to experiment with these 115s. So these are pulled bullets, and I don't know how much you guys know about these military pulled bullets, but they have some sort of coating on them. And now
it's the waterproofing that they put in them.
Well, that's funny.
on top of the plating.
So yeah, it's a full metal jacket bullet, and it has some sort of like grease or some sort of coating. I open up my tin, I move to the bottom of the tin, grabbing ammo, and like the bottom third is starting to get some patina on everything. So like these bullets are full metal jacket 115s. They should group pretty well with the standard tight group load. They're not grouping as well as they should. And now I'm getting like this patina thing. And so I'm literally doing an experiment downstairs where I took about 30 of them.
And I just tumble them.
Exactly right. And I'm washing them to see if I can get them clean, to see if they will group any better
Put them
than.
through some corn cob media. I'll let
Put
you
them in
old
corn
school
cob,
tumbler.
don't wash them.
Why?
I want to
Because
see if it groups.
PRS.
PRS.
Can't even say wash
God,
them.
gosh, I want a 2-inch group or 2.5-inch group. I don't want a 9-inch group out of the damn
Yeah, well,
stuff.
she wanted a 2-inch group as well, but she settled with you. So just deal with what you got.
Listen. It depends on the angle. All right.
Just watch it more.
No, Tommy. I mean, do you have any other powder?
I do have some other powder that I'm willing to experiment with.
You will get better performance if you have a slower burning powder on those 115s. Something that's going to be a little bit slower. The 115 and a tight group, it's going to spike fast, and your accuracy is always going to suffer.
Yeah, I got some silhouette. I'll try it.
Recommend?
You could try the Uniques. You could try N320s, Winchester 231, HP 38.
Silhouette's also a very slow powder. I'm still hoping I walk into Sportsman's and find an 8-pound keg of Unique. That would be amazing. But I'm going to sit there and try that.
Boy, our Sportsman's locally, they had. I should look because I'm actually going to go back there today to buy more primers. But they had a freaking ton of powder on the shelves.
It's all hellishly expensive, but I'm seeing primer everywhere now.
$31 for a pound of tight group.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of the going rate right now, because I think at some point last year, in order to produce the components for powder, there's like three. There's 3 factories worldwide that actually produce the base components, and one of them kind of burned to the ground or something like that.
Oh, speaking of burning to the ground, the S&B factory is back up and running, and they're
in,
producing
Czechoslovakia?
primers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Oh.
so I highly doubt that we'll ever see those $15 per thousand primers you used to be able to get at Cabela's, but still.
Well, I mean, just having some more supply right now. I mean, I think
100%.
what we're seeing primer wise is, well, I guess apparently we're buying all our primers from Argentina right now.
Yeah.
What would
And
you
they're
know
of
about getting
questionable value.
primers when you get all yours for free? Just handed to you by the pallet load.
I'll have you know, sir, I had to spend a whole 6 hours processing brass for John Bautista just so I could get like 3,000 federal gold match primers.
What
I felt
Yee-Min's
dirty.
what Yee-Min's not telling you is that bed behind him isn't a bed. It's actually a couple pallets where all of his primers and bullets are
That's
sitting.
where he sleeps. That's where he sleeps.
His Breaking Bad pile of money.
He just.
Yep.
Oh my God.
But it was nice.
I wish.
Me and Alex, we went out there and we shot a little bit yesterday, and there was I was there the weekend before doing that counter robbery class, and there was like 20 people taking a Bear Solutions pistol class, and all these people looked young, and they all had trendy gear on, and I'm like, these bitches don't reload. And so we literally go out there, and I'm like, Mike, do you see all that gold sprinkling everywhere? And he goes, yeah. And he goes like, we're picking up a ton of that stuff. And so we finished shooting about 3:15, and then me and my son Mike is great because he's got perfect gun handling, and I'm so proud of him. Alex Holt gives him a couple .22 revolvers. Mike knows how to open them up, mess out of you reload, starts sticking it in because he's got the toy perfectly safe, just as his 22s. I'm like, here's 250 rounds of 22 ammo. Go have fun. He's sitting there having a blast. And we literally pick up probably 65% of a 5-gallon bucket of straight, once fired 9mm brass. And so
Wait, what head stamp?
And it's S&B Federal. It's all you see people. I just look at people. I'm like, I see people with like 320s and staccatos and all the fancy new stuff. I go, these bitches don't reload. They're not picking up a damn thing. And so I just walk over there and just clack, clack, clack. It was so, you could literally just like kneel down and in your arm's reach, get about 250 pieces of brass. And then you just do your little scoot. And then you just keep going. And the two of us, we just sat there and just filled that thing up. I am super happy. And he was pleased. And one of my favorite things watching him do is like, all right, I want to shoot a 9mm. And so I hand him the new Glock 19 and he sits at 20 yards. And he goes 7. Well, technically, he goes 7 on to 8. He gets 7 shots. He knocks down the 6 plates and then hits another piece of steel and only misses 1 shot at 20 yards with the Glock 19. And you see the recoil impulse kick up. And he goes, well, how do you like the dot? He goes, the dot is amazing. This goes exactly where you point it, because he just literally spent 2 hours before with a Ruger LCR in 22 and a Smith & Wesson 22 with just the little J-frame bead sight, just going 2 fingers on the trigger. Amen. So it was a fantastic time.
Can you teach us a little bit more about counter robbery? What were some of the things you learned?
So
For a friend.
For a friend.
I mean, what kind of things do I need to be on the lookout in case somebody tries to rob me?
But honestly, that's probably a high. I mean, my father-in-law was in a robbery. I mean,
Was he the perpetrator or on the receiving end? I mean,
no, he was in the. He walked into the middle of the robbery and ended up disrupting it. But anyway, I'm curious. I mean, that's as likely as a situation as any that we're going to be in.
Correct. So the couple things, the main thing that's really came out of the Cecil Birch's side of it, which was managing the space. So the one thing is like you got to really manage the space. And one of the things that they layer on little steps, and one of the steps would be getting people to stop early. So if someone's trying to approach you, hey, hold up real quick. To try to get them to stop encroaching on you. The second thing would be something as they keep going, no, I said stop. And then if they keep moving on you, fucking stop. So you're really trying to get them to stop. And then if you know that they continue to encroach after that point, you know that they are a threat. So a couple things that's also learned is to pick up cues. If they're looking away, if they're loading up their bodies, what are they doing with their hands? Because they are trying to get into proximity. That proximity also decreases the chances that they'll be witnessed doing something else. If they draw a gun on you or do something else farther away, there's more of a chance that they'll be seen from another aspect or something. So as long as you can get them to stop, keeping your hands up, not trying to back up, but trying to circle around them for position, to be on their sides or to get in a position that you can get easily controlled. It's kind of a weird philosophy, but your position timing and distance are equal things that you can trade off for each other. So I would rather have good position over more distance, depending on what I'm using. The interesting thing was too is as an appendix carry handgun. So appendix carry handgun, very fast, but you actually have to start trying to use that handgun way earlier in the process because it's a harder system to deploy. So it actually becomes a more proactive response to a dangerous threat than a reactive response to a dangerous threat because you need so much more time to understand where this is happening, get to the gun, present the gun, and shoot. A better solution, pocket guns, but the one thing that really convinced me was the pocket OC spray, as I could have my hand on the OC spray, and if it rapidly devolved, I would at least be able to deploy that much more quickly. And so they gave us.
Spray yourself first.
So what they gave us some water trainers that would spray, and then we practiced with that stuff. And like the POM spray, you get 2 canisters of that stuff. It comes highly recommended. 2 canisters is $24 on Amazon. So it is a great little thing to sit there and have because you can win most fights when they start off with somebody being blinded. And so, and the other part is too, is like you can have that in your hand, they conceal a lot better, and you're more likely to sit there and apply them because 1, it's not deadly force, 2, you can be farther down the curve before you actually sit there and deploy it. But there is a lot of great things I think they're going to come out, but if you would like to learn more, I would look up Cecil Birch, CECIL BIRCH, jiu-jitsu black belt guy, very good at the managing contacts, distancing, stuff like that, and then other techniques. And so we kind of went through that, but it was very eye-opening. I will tell you, doing basically last 4 months, spending everything doing out of concealment from appendix, I was behind the power curve as far as them coming toward, or like it takes longer to do that. But having a good appendix draw is like I never fumbled the gun and I always got the gun up. The one things that would happen is I would get shots on the person and get stabbed after I had shot them. So the whole idea of not just moving backwards but switching side steps or rotating around for positioning kind of sounds weird, but when you actually do it at full speed, it makes a ton of difference. And then being able to manage them and shoot them. So it was a very good class, and it's.
And why didn't you invite us, you jerk?
Well, I got invited last minute
Ugh.
because the guy who was hosting it wasn't able to attend, and Alex needed somebody else to help him host it, and so they offered me to come in and do that.
Ugh.
So yeah, it's on there's a bunch of cool classes coming out. So if you just use if you're out here in the Salt Lake area, the Pew Pew Solutions website, and they'll show you the kind of classes.
Josh Thornton's company, right?
Yes, Josh Thornton's company out there on the farm.
Good dude.
Yeah,
How much time did you guys actually spend on managing contacts? Because what you covered was very similar to what I got from Craig Douglas when we did the
mucking
stuff.
Yes, the mucking and stuff. It's it's the same school.
It's the same thing.
It's the same kind of school and the same curriculum. They are affiliated with each other. And I would say it was 2 days. And so basically, but they would split you up. So you go to the kind of mucking or managing unknown contacts, then go through the processing shooting class for the other half of the morning, and then go back and then come back. So it was basically 8 hours of the managing unknown contacts and 8 hours of the processing of shooting. And so like the shooting was like rudimentary, especially when it comes to like USPSA skills, but there was some interesting like processing types of drills that were very good. And so it definitely, you can, like one of the things is like not muzzling people that are not threats. So instead of like transitioning straight over to the next threat and covering 2 or 3 people who were not a threat, bringing the muzzle down and then not just shooting to shoot, but if somebody says, threat or whatever, not bringing the gun up onto the person, but challenging the person. You kind of got a lot of that in like something like the Masadi, where hey, don't move, stop, stuff like that. But normally in other classes, that stop becomes I said stop, so now I'm shooting now, instead of
Right,
actually
it's
managing.
escalation.
Yes.
Yeah, it's escalation of command
Class.
presence.
It was very good. Very good class. I was very happy that I was able to attend it and do it.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
How's
So,
Daryl doing, by the way?
Good.
I haven't heard from Daryl ever since he moved out of SoCal and went to Texas and freedom. So I hope he's doing well.
yeah, he seemed to be very happy and healthy and doing well. And so, and then a lot of small handgun stuff was kind of the part of that class too. Anyways, I carried everything on my Dominate Defense belt. Head over to Dominate Defense. Use promo code PARA10, save 10%. If you want to carry a gun in that thing, head on over to Precision Holsters. Use the same promo code and get one of their fantastic fast holsters. And then also, Aaron Lawson, yesterday, shooting drills with +1 in the gun because I use a Rune Tactical follower and spring kit. So check him out, Rune Tactical, PARA10, save 10% off. It's a great tool to have in your toolkit. Telegram, questions, Robert? Maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe answers?
Moishe actually sent an article. Yeah, in Utah. He asked what the thoughts are on this, but in Utah they passed a law that says that parents have to give social media access to the kids, and he says, is this the best way to stop mass violence incidents in America? And I would probably say yes.
They have to what?
Well, right. They passed a law that says that in Utah, parents have to give permission for their children to access social media before they can actually get on it. And so whether that actually works or not, I mean, implementation is always going to be interesting. But I'm a firm believer in getting kids, keeping them as far away from social media as possible.
Yeah,
isn't that
good luck with
kind
that.
of built into your parenting job?
It is what parents should be doing.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing is like stopping other human beings from doing something that other human beings want. It's like there's laws against underage drinking. What your kids do and what they don't do. The very funny thing about the aspect of like having the mass shootings and stuff like that is it's very much the social contagion, and you got to think about it no matter in what. And we can think about it in USPSA. There were techniques or skills or strategies that were never deployed until somebody thought that they could deploy them, and then everyone else took them up. And so when you have the resentful deciding to take out their anger on the world, and now they found a way of doing it, then they'll do it. Like literally 3 weeks ago, I was home on vacation and I went through the terror of literally having my son who works at the high school tell me that they had an active shooter.
Oh, that was the spoof call, right?
Correct. And I'm off, so I grab my shit, I grab my body armor and my freaking rifle, and I speed down there as fast as I can because God forbid there's no cop response or it turns into some sort of Uvalde. Thank goodness the cops had already been there for 12 minutes and were coming out, and then literally you hear over the loudspeaker on the fire department that we need to send police officers to Spanish Fork Junior High, and I hear that, and my son Mike goes to this. So I had to drive over there as fast as I could and saw the officers coming out. And like on that time, we kind of knew that like it was just these big, gigantic prank calls.
Right.
But so now people, and this has been happening in other states. So it's like, oh, to literally cause mass chaos, I don't even have to do anything to sit there and do it. I get the effect of just by literally pranking everybody and causing a response. And then someone's going to figure out to cause a response everywhere and then go do something bad somewhere else because the police officers will be somewhere else. I mean, there's no other way out of all our problems except for personal responsibility and personal management. So that's as you see society decay, it's because people are decaying from the inside.
From JC.
Happy Easter.
Happy
Yeah,
Easter.
right.
Jesus loves you.
There's a way out of this.
Yes. For Yee-Min, some of the top shooters have been talking about how the World Speed Shoot has lost its prestige. Is this a concern shared by the board? And if so, are there any plans to address this?
It is definitely something that's talked about with the board. I appreciate the question. So the challenge with the World Speed Shoot as it's currently constructed is that, it started out here the West Coast, and it was, basically the premier steel challenge match. It was international. Then once we picked it up, it was originally center fire only. So the real challenge we have with World Speed Shoot at this point is that we have simultaneously increased participation by making steel challenge more accessible across all types of firearms. Our expansion into allowing rimfire basically dominates steel challenge right now. It's a quick, easy entry. Everybody wants to go. And we're ultimately running into the challenge of, okay, if it's supposed to be a World Speed Shoot, like the World Series is a World Series, finding a location that you can do steel challenge that accommodates everybody and still is connected to its original roots of center fire, it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. I mean, that's something that we're talking about in terms of where the World Speed Shoot will be for next year and years after that. So there's some, it's the problem of growth. Maybe if anybody really is listening to this, it's really the challenge of growth. We've expanded the ability for people to participate, and dealing with those growth challenges and being able to still keep it as the thing for Steel Challenge is work in progress. I quite frankly, I think we've all shot Steel Challenge before too. I mean, there's a reason why we sort of talk about Steel Challenge as an entry into practical shooting in general. I mean, it's the same 8 stages. You know exactly what you're going to get, and then you go to USPSA and everything's different. So it's one of several things that I'm apparently not working on in my short 7 months as USPSA president. You're welcome.
So the problem is more people, more
Yes.
divisions, kind of waters down the prestige than trying to find people to sit there and show up. I would literally just have an elimination process. As you win your divisions, you get entered into a shoot off near the end, and then you just have one shoot off near the end.
Then everyone's dead.
Then everyone's dead. It's just like Cannibal Camp season 3, which Robert won.
Well, the question, Tom, is that and like anything else we talk about within the practical shooting umbrella, the vast majority of participation is at the club level, right?
Yep.
So expanding to rimfire and having more divisions, that's really where the growth should be predicated, at the club level. Robert, you talked with Dave Blanton and Charlie Perez in terms of
right.
What are some things that the organization can do to support the clubs. That all those things you guys have brought up. I mean, those are very legitimate ideas. I mean, I probably just the internet thing, right? So, you spoke with Frank Rizzi, the Area 7 director. I mean, he basically took that document that you guys worked on, showed it to his IT guy, and he was like, I know exactly how I'm going to do this, right? So they ran the power, they plugged up all the hard lines, they plugged up all the access points, and they basically have, fully powered functioning internet that they can run at Colonial. Now he's got to double check that at Richmond Borough, but again, getting that information, that's just another advocate within the organization to say like, hey, like this Wi-Fi setup, like we really should try to get this, up on the website so everybody goes, hey, here's the dummies guide to setting up. Paper scoring. So
that makes me really happy that they actually were able to take advantage of that, because we tried to set that up with the idea that somebody could come along and use it, if for no other reason, just as a stepping stone to be like, here's what's even possible. And that was the biggest hurdle we had to overcome when we set it up, was like, we don't know what we don't know. And if it wasn't for Bill Duda and you, who was like, okay, here are contacts of other people that have done this. I mean, we should have that as an organization.
And I completely agree. And there's definitely it's a slow process of getting that critical mass of board members to acknowledge in the priority of all the things that we have to deal with, that, hey, this should be a priority. And then the challenge is, who advocates for that? Who does that? And it's a discussion that, has gone across the board in terms of, okay, well, this is a great idea. All right, who's going to do this? Okay, well, we have employees. How many employees do we have? Oh, wait, they have 1,000, they literally have 1 million different things. So then it's championing that, but thinking about not necessarily doing it internally within the organization. I mean, you could take what you and Lex did and say, okay, this is a base, put out a call to the membership and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. Can you give us some feedback? And then you still get to where you're going at, but instead of having to do all the work yourself, we're relying on the volunteers that spend countless hours in love of the sport,
Right.
to basically do things the right way.
100%. There's another question for you. It says, is the rumor about standard optics in IPSC true?
Yeah. As a formal provisional division, no. I'm not. That still has to go through the IPSC process. So they have a rules committee just like we do in USPSA. The moment that we did pass as the provisional division, I mean, I did inform the IPSC Executive Council, hey, we did this. Here's the division appendix. So that's probably something we're going to be talking about later on in the year. I mean, it has been an interest of a division interest of discussion. It's just how IPSC wants to implement it as opposed to how we implement it. So it's ongoing. Maybe yes, maybe no. So, but we're working towards it.
There was a question that came in a little bit ago, and we said we wanted to talk about it, but here it goes. It says, in Israel, people want a gun for self-defense mainly out of fear of a terrorist act and not to defend themselves against criminal activity. It is important to remember that terrorists are willing to die during the attack. On the other hand, surprisingly, in Israel, it's difficult to get a license for a gun. And if you get one, it is only for one gun. Another point, there is no legal obligation to conceal the gun. Under these conditions, what gun and training would you recommend to a citizen who wants to train for self-defense and also have fun in IDPA competitions?
You're going to take this gun back to Israel?
Let's assume
in Israel?
No,
that
he
they are in
actually
Israel.
he lives in
So-
Israel.
A low-profile counter-terrorist setup, essentially.
Well,
Glock 19, right?
I do not see a reason not to sit there and use the Glock 19. I mean, the one thing that I will say, I mean, they're kind of prevalent still over there, is
Don't say the Desert Eagle because nobody wants to carry a 50 mil.
Well,
no one wants to carry the Desert Eagle, but when you hit the guy in the head with the 50 AE Action Express, you know what? Then you're like, I made the right choice. When you hit him in the bottom of the chin and the front of his face comes off, you're like, that's the ticket. And then the bullet travels through and keeps going. It's an Action Express. It is a freight train. The Glock 19. So one of the interesting that's out there, and it's kind of funny, Dave Blanton put out a video about compensators in IDPA, and he tested a bunch of different things. If you guys have not seen Dave Blanton's latest, The Humble Marksman's video on compensators in IDPA, taking random shooters, giving them compensated pistols, and seeing...
Oh, that was a good video.
It was a very good
what they
video.
thought on the process. The compensated handgun, so you're talking about what would be preferably available. A Gen 3 Glock 19, whatever they used to call them, the C's. They're still out there. You can still find them. Or something like a Glock 19 with a minimal compensator on it, you could probably do something with. The Glock 19, you can basically do anything, and depending on your skills, there's definitely a lot of places that you can sit there and put a dot on those if those are available in Israel. If they're not available, I had experience with the IWI Masada. I thought it was a very good pistol, and they make a compact version of that thing, and you get the swap frames and chassis because it's like a P320. I found to be very accurate, had a very good trigger, and a lot of them are optics ready from the jump. So a pistol, something like that. Now, just doing that counter robbery thing, I would highly suggest the pepper spray, because the one thing about the pepper spray that
for the terrorist who's gonna
not exact
dead man switch, and it's gonna be like, oh, my eyes.
No, not that. But the one thing that you do start seeing is people act really freaky before they do stuff, which means if you can hit them with something preemptively, well, before they actually commit something, at least you've just basically hit them and committed like a low-level assault. You haven't actually hurt them, but you've actually maybe either provoked them to go into the mode that they were going to go on, like blow up something, but at least they have some of their senses taken a plus, and like they're pretty easy to shoot when they can't see. Or it might deter them before the fact. And this, if you only have one gun, I would not recommend the J
I can
from.
see all kinds of legal issues opening up from doing that. You're
Correct.
just asking to get your ass thrown in jail.
But it's better than shooting them when you're not sure.
Yes, it gives you like if you're going to have a misdemeanor.
You go and pepper spray them. They pull a gun out and start shooting you, and then they go to court and they're like, "I was trying to defend my life against this guy who was attacking me."
And right, if they take the gun out and they start shooting, then it becomes whatever it becomes after that. But the one thing is like, so what do? Do you just sit there in social ambiguity and just wait till the thing tips over the edge and then draw the gun and start shooting people?
Yes.
What, and then what happens when you're behind the power curve there?
Because at the end of the day, this is still a defensive gun use. It's not an offensive gun situation. And when you pull pepper spray, you've now attacked somebody. And
no.
If you attack me with that pepper spray,
here's the deal. People go like, "Oh, it's a deadly force thing, so now I'm going to take out the gun and now I'm going to shoot them." The same level applies from the force level of pepper spray. If they do something that would require force but not deadly force, at least you have the option of the pepper spray.
Wait, we are talking about the U.S. right now. I mean, aren't we supposed to be Israelis right
Correct.
now? We don't
this is what I'm saying. Well, this is what I'm saying is like here.
I think pepper spray for terrorists is stupid. The end.
Okay.
I'm with Jared.
Okay. That's fine.
Spoken.
If I
So
see
how do
that,
these terrorist encounters go down?
Well,
I mean, I don't really know. How do terrorist encounters
well,
go down?
here's the thing. If you like, you can pull up Telegram. You have like some of the IDF review
Good
channels. One of those things is like what these guys like to do is like they like to get on buses and stab people. If I see the guy step on the bus,
England.
This is also
That's Japan.
This is Israel. If you go to IDF review, you'll see plenty of guys who go into crowds and stab people. If I see the guy sitting there walking around with the knife, looking at people and stabbing, I'm very happy to take the pepper spray out. I'm also equally happy to take the gun out. But
Does he
like
have to say Allahu Akbar first?
at least with
Both.
I prefer Aloha snack bar.
Very well.
it is not, you lose no capability by having something the size of a 9-volt battery in your pocket. I don't think anyone else can argue that you lost some capability.
Israel?
It's the same stuff.
I would argue that instead of looking for a weapon solution, I would look for a defensive solution for a terrorist. If my concern was explosives, I would not be trying to get guns. I'd be trying to have a backpack with 3A frag protection or some sort of basic protection against explosives. That's what I would be doing. If I was going into an area where I knew that there were high likelihood of terrorist attacks, and to be honest, in most of the world, terrorist attacks are typically explosive driven instead of knives or guns. I mean, they could be those things, obviously, but the biggest concern for me would be an explosive. So I would try to just get a backpack with some sort of 3A protection or some sort of rifle plate, or that would be my go-to thing. I don't even know if a gun is the right answer.
Well,
I mean, and I'm obviously in another country, in another world, in another entirely other situation. I don't know if we're even should be giving you advice on this, because that is 100% out of any one of our wheelhouses.
Yeah.
We cannot even imagine what life is like over there.
Yep.
And so I don't.
It's like
I don't
somebody blows up a shopping market. Well, what are you going to do about that? Well, you could not be at the market, and that's about it. But
Well,
how do
yeah.
you know which market? I mean,
The-
it's terrorism, right? It's kind of random.
The one thing that terrorism has slowly become to is the same thing that we face over here, that what we deal with school shootings and mass shooters incidents. It's very easy for somebody to procure firearms, knives, than it is for them to procure explosives. And so what happens is you
Wait, are you saying it's easier to get a gun than an explosive?
I'm saying that for some people, without having to pop up queues of things that could be traced, it's very easy for people to go, I'll just get my dad's gun, go here, shoot these people.
But again, that's here, U.S.
That's internationally. People are taking cars and driving them into spots. People are taking out knives and running up to people and mass stabbing them. It is the suicide vest thinks it's fine, but that is like literally funded terrorist activities. There are people now who are sitting gathering in small bands and deciding to sit there and go like, what's the easiest way to get to cause chaos and damage? And it's literally walk into places, stab people, walk into places, shoot people. The Timothy McVeigh problem or the suicide vest problem.
The Timothy McVeigh problem was a direct result of the government overstepping their bounds. He was simply a response to the government.
Correct, but you're not going to see people like that anymore do that. What you're going to see people do is walk into crowded places with weapons. You can do that. Drive.
I think explosives are actually going to become more of an issue here in the U.S. Actually, in Utah, even we've been having a number of issues with explosives. There was a South Jordan house that actually had more explosives in that house. It was literally the most homemade explosives that have been found in the U.S. from what I was told.
Yeah,
so
explosives are stupid easy to make.
It is very easy, and it is very scary how easy those are to make and execute very, very effectively. And it's something that we don't really prepare for. And you like what Steve was saying, like, how do you really can't.
Right.
And that would be my only argument for that would be the only really thing you could do would be to have a plate, have a little bit of body armor and a backpack. And so if something does happen, and if you're going to catch a piece of frag in your back and maybe the plate stops it, maybe it doesn't, because fragmentation is very, very different than bullets. So it's like, oh, someone just made a sad sound.
Well, on that note, we're changing subject because this is dark. So we're going to go to something even darker. From Andy Erickson, we held our night match last night. It ran late until about midnight, like it always does. But 10 of the 16 guys on one squad bolted when they were done shooting. Their squad was still shooting when they left. Should they be executed for their crime?
Yes.
Yeah. The
public shaming.
I like public shaming.
Here's the rule about leaving early. Two stages.
Tom.
If you are willing to not shoot 2 stages and not have a score for the match because you have stuff to do, feel free to leave. There is no leaving early after you shoot the stage.
Saying that we should tax millionaires until he became one. Now it's billionaires.
As Robert, have you ever had a bad match and left halfway through?
Only when he's 80.
Only when it's cold.
When it's cold, AD, gun broke. I mean, there's excuses.
I had one where I left a match because I got into an argument with the range master, but the match hadn't even started.
It's like, listen, there is no world where it is okay to have a full score for the match and not pick up. If you're willing to take the DNF, God bless you.
You know what? I don't know that I agree with that. I think if you're the kind of person who, like 99% of the time, they're out there, they're helping, they're working, they're busting their butt, they're doing stuff. If you have to peace out, that's life. Totally go ahead. I mean, go, to your birthday party, your wedding, whatever. But
volleyball practice,
Brett. But I think if you publicly shame people, I mean, we'd like to thank all the people that stuck around and helped put the match away after the match was over last night. We'd also like to not thank these people and then name them out who left early. Next match, we really would like to ask these people to help.
Yeah, remember, because the 3-gun lifestyle became a meme because it was very much that's what would happen with people. Well, I pay my price.
Stereotypes exist for a reason.
I'm taking off and I'm leaving. So
yeah, Jared, you got to go.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Speaking of leaving early.
Yeah.
Nope. That's it.
Public shaming.
General shaming. 3-second penalty.
Well, thanks for downloading, listening, and subscribing. Really appreciate you guys for doing that. Robert put up a fantastic 13-minute episode last week, and
soliloquy.
We just wanted to keep those. We got to keep those numbers up. So do all that stuff. You can check out an actual video version of this on YouTube. It'll be in the links of the podcast. And for Steve Koski, Robert Wyatt, Jared Stepp, and Yee-Min Lin, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Good night, everybody.
Dude.
For the Empire.
For the Empire. And keep your fingers out of the damn trigger guards. Just for fun.
You're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do.
You can't tell me how to spend my money.
You're not my real dad.
All right, Jared, get out of here. Just upload that thing when you get a second, okay?